which is Larmac, they own all the property. They own all the property. In fact, they basically let us use this, so we're their leasee, if you will.
Right.
We are in charge of events, activities, programming, volunteers, all the social infrastructure, if you will. So what happens is between the two organizations, we have what we call a mutual benefit agreement, which is to be mutually beneficial to both organizations and the community as a whole. Well, of course, the lawyers get involved, and it's who's responsible for what. There's an indemnity clause in that mutual benefit agreement, and by the way, that's reviewed
It's supposed to be reviewed every year.
every year, and
Well,
automatically
the 2-year mark.
renews if either party doesn't want to make changes.
Right.
But Larmac wanted to make some changes, and one of the areas that they are making a change is in the indemnity clause. And what happened is they added language to the indemnity clause that would hold Larcs responsible for anything they approved on their facilities. So, step forward. Larcs attorney and Larcs insurance advisor get together, read it over, say it's too much
And you
risk.
guys have the main reason why we got the insurance advisor that we have was because it's your insurance advisor.
Well, it's not just ours; it's Larmac's
and
too.
Larmax.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
Okay.
right.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
the same one. We're all
Right.
talking the same
Mark.
one.
You're not separately insured from Larmac?
We
Oh,
are,
yeah.
but we just have the same
we're
guy.
totally. It's just the
Yeah.
same. He's just the broker.
Yeah.
He understands this
He
business,
gets the whole.
and
Right.
he has the connections to know who can get. Because a lot of our insurance for Larcs is very unique, and there's only a few companies that write that kind of stuff. So he's our broker basically. So the bottom line is, it was determined by advice that we got from those entities that Larcs can no longer approve events that are not Larcs events that they have no control over on facilities that we don't own. So, that's where we are.
This is why it's taken so long. Because we started out with regrouping a form, then we regrouped the form again, then we came down to this MBA agreement, and it basically was the ones of us that represent each board in the room saying, I will not sign this indemnity clause if you leave it this way, and they said, well, if we can't leave it this way, we won't sign it. So,
And this
we're kind
is
of in a
Larmac.
standoff. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, because what's interesting too is, and I was on the Larks board.
Right.
You know, the prior
get it. I know
Larmac.
you get
I
it,
totally
yeah.
get it. What's interesting though is if you talk to the Larmac prior presidents who totally know it inside out. You've got the Bill O'Hare's of the world, the Lawsons.
Right.
They're like, Michelle, this absolutely should not be an issue. I mean, if you go in, it's so to me.
Well,
it should
here's
be a
another
work-
thing
Right.
that we heard from both Larmac's attorney and Larc's attorney is typically there's maybe one or two exceptions. Typically, homeowner associations who own facilities, not you, but you are members of Larmac. You pay your monthly dues to Larmac for the use of these facilities.
I'm in Covenant Hills.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No, we all own.
Yeah.
I don't know
We all
why
do,
I
yeah.
was thinking you lived in Mission Viejo. I guess because you're
Yeah,
just
I'm
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
That's okay.
I'm a homeowner.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
everybody.
I'm sorry, Dan.
Yeah.
So my point is, because I asked the attorney, I said, how many associations that you deal with that have facilities, large facilities, rent them out to private or other entities other than the events they do? None. And it all came back to liability. They don't do it. You'll have some exceptions like Sam Lark, because they built one of their parks right by the city, and they will lease it out to the city and that kind of stuff there. And Avca's another example in Aliso Viejo because they built a park right by the town center. Those are the only two exceptions that we know of. But if you go to any other homeowners association that owns a private park, their attorneys tell them, do not rent this out to anybody that you don't have control
So I'm
over.
clear. So we're talking about Oktoberfest.
Yes.
We're talking about anything that's not okay.
Yes.
So I guess long story short, jumping into the qualification is to be a Larcs recognized
Well,
event.
the bottom line is, this is what you're right. So we felt backed into a corner. So number one, we can no longer approve events that we are not somehow involved
Affiliated
in,
with. Okay.
so that we have the control
Some kind
factor.
of control. Right.
And so this is hot off the press because literally it just came out of
Just
the board
did it on
meeting.
Wednesday.
What we've come up with is a co-sponsored special event, and
Can I just ask a question?
Sure,
before we get on to the
sure.
actual
Sure.
Taste of Ladera thing?
Sure.
Any of the events that you guys throw, like the Oktoberfest,
We don't do the
Don't do it.
Oktoberfest.
So
that's
that's
changed.
chamber.
chamber.
that's out.
Right.
Well,
Unless
this
it-
year
right.
they're having it because this
It was
wasn't
already
all in
approved,
place,
right.
and we're still under the old MBA. This is all going to start happening as soon as and the MBA meetings in 2 weeks. Once that new MBA
Okay,
goes in place,
but the concerts in the park that you guys
Those
throw,
are ours.
The Springsteen cover band. the
Right.
those are ours.
You guys have to provide some sort of airtight indemnity clause for.
That's correct.
Larmac,
Right,
yes?
only from us though, and what they're now asking us to do, for example, we're not involved in Taste of Ladera
Right.
at all. They're asking us to indemnify you. We have no say in what you do.
Right. What I'm getting at is insurance-wise and
Mm-hmm.
legally, an indemnification clause is an indemnification clause, whether
Right.
it's from this entity or that entity.
Right.
There is no legal caveat there. If her group is indemnifying Larmac and Larcs,
Mm-hmm.
and you are providing a CUP, her indemnification is no different than the one you would provide under your umbrella. In other words, your insurance company would indemnify Larmac.
This is true in insurance. We're not talking about insurance. We're talking about the mutual benefit agreement. The indemnification
Right.
clause in the mutual benefit agreement is different than, you're exactly right, in insurance. But
But their concern is liability, which
of course
is,
their concern is liability.
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
the premise of all this.
Correct.
And indemnification eliminates liability, whether it's
Well,
your entity or
It,
her entity.
in our
Not
case,
necessarily.
it eliminates it for Larmac. But the way it's stated, it's throwing it all on us,
All
and
on
it's too big of risk. It's too big a risk.
Right,
And
but
what
both
about-
entities could be indemnified. The same indemnification.
They
that
won't
could
sign
be-
it that way.
So Larmac won't sign it.
No,
Mm-hmm.
they're
Interesting.
only and here's why: they own the facilities. The indemnification clause is written to protect them because they own the facilities.
In my understanding, like if you look at, the middle school
Mm-hmm.
where we house it, which by the way they're already planning, they're excited.
Right.
So this ought to be interesting. They will have an event. They'll have their big carnival.
Right.
So there's certain exceptions that are made. You can go through and look.
Well, they
Right?
also
I mean,
well. Let's
yeah.
back up because see again, there's a separate agreement between CUSD and Larmac.
and see in my
They already have an agreement that it's a shared use agreement that they have because of the way that this community was built with the parks.
and same
only
thing,
with them.
And same thing with the actual with the football, with the fields. Is that the same way?
No, that's a whole
Larmac.
Totally
Yeah,
different
yeah,
deal.
we have
Yeah.
nothing to do with that at all.
Okay, so
yeah.
But just so I'm clear, because I don't know if we explained that, but I sponsor this event. I'm the platinum sponsor of the event. I put up a large
Right.
share of money
Right.
for the event to go off, and obviously I'm present at the event with my entities.
Right.
What I'm curious about is if you guys aren't involved in this event, and you just said that Larcs is completely out of the Taste of Ladera event,
Right.
and an entity like Capistrano Unified School District, LFL, AYSO, all these entities are able to, under some CUP, get the use of Founders Park, Cox Sports, or wherever. What would be the difference if she was to work out a deal with Larmac if your guys' hands are washed of the
Well,
event?
nothing.
anyway?
That's- she can work out a deal with Larmac.
That's the kind of the
Yep.
issue that we feel like we don't know how to move forward. And when
Yep.
I say we, I'm speaking on behalf of Larcs.
And you have to understand too that we've been going through this for a year. This has not been easy, and what's happened at each step, to be perfectly honest about it, is like, for example, I'm sure you guys have heard, we now are required to have sound monitors at every event.
Yeah.
Well, this
Heard.
is brand new, and they're
Heard we did
encumbering
it. Yeah, you
us.
did it, yeah.
It's their property, their volume, their complaints they get, but suddenly it's our problem to take care of. Also, with the fields and all the maintenance, we're now expected to be at those, have a sound monitor there, make sure they're doing the right thing, as well as if we're there, suddenly we're on site now at your event or Oktoberfest, and Larcs, who isn't entailed in any way in Larmac's guidelines and policies, is now expected to execute their guidelines and policies.
So
and it's
you're
just
the,
gotten
you're
so
the
we
police
can't.
agency for the conditional use
Well,
permit that's
that-
being granted by that agency.
That's what they're trying to do, and
That's
they can't do it.
That's the
Yeah,
that's
the
the
problem.
challenge between the two boards.
Yeah.
First of all, the whole
That's the
idea of the
problem.
mutual benefit agreement is to get the boards to work together. You know, this is the sticking point, and this is causing some tension between the two
Are you
boards
guys a
because
division of Larmac?
No, we are two separate
no,
boards.
If-
separate entity. However, we don't have members.
Right, Larmac is
You
our
are all members of Larmac. We have one sole member who is Larmac. Their only role in this organization is the election of our board of directors, but it's a separate board of directors. It's a totally separate budget, totally separate everything else.
Documents, everything.
So,
Legal documents, right?
and I guess a couple things with the sound.
Yeah.
You know, we were very involved. We had hired
Yeah, I
Taste of
remember.
Ladera,
Right, yeah,
brought
yeah.
in sound engineers a little bit. Mr. Price.
They're going to be at Oktoberfest too. 'Cause
Had
we
all
have to
the
do
issue
everything.
paid, and I'm removed one over from his very, very good friend.
Right.
And there was no complaint.
Right.
It was fine.
He seems to be okay now.
he's
from what we
yeah.
can tell.
Yeah.
I went in and made connections and
Yeah.
worked on that and been reporting my findings back
Right.
to Jeff. But yeah, he was pleased, no issue, nothing. We literally changed the entire configuration
Right.
to accommodate those issues and talking to all the neighbors. I mean, our record, and that gets into some other topics as well as with the survey and all that kind of stuff, but we have had 0 issues. I mean, we've never had a speeding ticket, citation, anything. I mean, you had literally, Sandra Hutchins get up at the community event. I mean, Carol, you were
Yeah.
there, and I wasn't. I couldn't attend because I was doing a work thing. But her comment back was, "Taste of Ladera is the best run event in our entire county. We have 0 issues, nothing for that many people coming through. This community, they don't think that it's put on. They think it's put on by
What?
Larcs. They
Well,
do.
here's
I know,
here's
I
the
know.
bottom line.
I know.
Here's the bottom line. This is not about your event. It is a great event. This is not about your event. This is about Larmac and Larcs trying to figure out how we can work together and
our outside events are stuck in
not
the middle.
and not
Yeah.
exactly and not risk. And basically the conversation was at the meeting is, if we're at an impasse on signing this indemnification, basically what we're saying is there will be no more outside events other than Larcs events in this community. And basically what we heard from that board was yes,
Yep.
correct?
And that
Yeah,
would
they
be the
basically
Larmac
said
board.
if you don't sign it, yeah, because what it literally boils down to this indemnity clause. Because they've added, and it used to be, we just changed the name again. It was Larcs Special Events.
Yeah.
Now it's Larcs co-sponsored events because we were not gonna have to co-sponsor. And they basically said they've added all of these out-of-area events into this indemnity clause. And I said, I absolutely will not sign a contract that says I'm indemnifying. We are taking responsibility, Larcs, for indemnifying these outside
Property that
events
we
to
don't even
you.
own.
We don't even own the property. This is crazy. We're not involved
Yeah.
in these events. We don't have a say in what they do. We're not there
Well,
administering it.
and let me just throw that out there because, and you guys, 7 years having start to end, and you know this. I mean, they're, Dan's been part of my board, and when we had our meeting last, I mean, every year I'm like, Carol, I would love
Yep.
your help. Carol, I would
Yep.
love for you guys to be involved. And the decision was made of, no, we want to keep it completely
Right.
separate.
Well,
we don't want to have.
that's a staffing issue.
That's
Not
a
even
staffing
though-
issue.
But I even got into not even just a staffing issue. I mean, you go to any of these other cities, it's like, and again, we're not a city that's incorporated. I get
Right.
that,
Yeah.
but people are blown away when they find out Michelle Patterson takes. You want to talk about liability?
Yeah.
Funding I take
Right.
on the whole enchilada,
Right.
Right.
literally.
Well, you're an event planner. I mean, you're an event
but
company.
As of recent in the
Right,
last
it
year,
was.
but this
Right.
is somebody who was doing
Yeah.
it for
Yeah.
really. I mean, not
Long
making
time.
money, not like a fun
Well,
thing. And I would
here's
do it all
here's
over
the
again. I
bottom.
love it.
Here's the bottom line. Because we don't own the property, the only events that Larcs has decided as a board that they will co-sponsor or even entertain co-sponsoring will be events on the town green, and they'll be smaller in scale and they'll be one day only.
So
And
what
that's
about
for liability
What about
reasons.
like there's so much stuff. There's the Relay for Life. There's the races.
We don't do Relay for Life.
Um,
It goes to one of the schools.
Okay, what about the you got the lighting of the one that there's another event. There's a lot of them actually.
Everything is pretty much on the town green
Yeah,
that
that's the
we're
thing.
affiliated with.
Okay, so let me ask this question. So who does it affect really? Taste of Ladera. And
Well, the chamber, whoever it was, I don't
But
know
at
who
this-
else
at
was. The
this-
snow thing
At
is
this
gone.
stage,
We can't do
yeah.
the snow
Yeah, the
fest
snow
anymore.
thing is off, so Ron Luna's event won't happen.
He can't have his. So he's looking at Mercantile West, I think, or something.
Yeah, he's looking
Who,
with partnering
who does
them.
the 4th of July?
We do.
Well, that's Larcs.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the indemnification clause you're willing to sign for 4th of July?
Well, we have total control.
We have
That's
total
our
control
event.
over it.
Okay.
I guess because I've been dealing so much with going in and renting facilities all over, everything from the Great Park to, I mean, we've talked about this, Ortega. I mean,
But those are not association properties. Those are.
See, here's the bottom line.
Yeah.
To me, what should happen, and unfortunately, because of what they've laid out, is what you're saying is absolutely correct.
Yep.
You go in and you rent the property, you're
Right.
talking to the wrong group.
Right.
Larmac owns the property. That's part of the problem. We don't own the property. It's not ours. You're asking us. We're acting like a middleman. We're supposed to be indemnifying you on their property. That's even our attorney said you're nuts. There's no way you should be indemnifying outside groups on their property. That should be up to, if they want to lease.
Does
If
that
they
not
want
make sense?
Yeah, if they want to rent their property, it's Larmac's property. I know, but go figure. And I mean, you know,
see, I understand initially why this started. Larmac thought we're getting so many requests,
Yeah.
and we are event people, so they're the event experts. Let's have them set up a process where they can approve the events, and if they think it's good, then we'll do it. Well, that worked for a while,
Made sense when
but
it was small.
then but then it's and believe me, we're now getting calls from, can we do Shakespeare in Founders Park for 4 weekends in a row? I mean, their calls are coming in
we get like
because
3 or 4 a week for outside
yeah,
activities.
and so
People
that's
don't know.
believe me, the board is agony. I'm not kidding you.
It's taken us a year.
Everybody on that board is supportive of this event. Honest to God, they are. They all go to it. They have fun at it. This is not about your event. This is about what do we have to do. Everybody said you got to take everything off the board here when we talk about this and look at the liability issues. What do we want to accept as liability? What do we not?
Well, let me just present that in an event like 4th of July, where you guys clearly, because you have control over it, you're comfortable signing this
Right.
airtight indemnification clause, right?
It's our event, correct?
Your event.
That's all.
Which by the way, let's just state before we go on, our attorneys as well as Larmac's attorneys have both told us there is no such thing as an airtight indemnity clause. That's part
That's
of the
true.
problem.
They did say that.
But whatever
Sounds
one
good.
you're providing for
Right.
Larmac
Mhm.
is obviously intimidating enough that your attorneys are like, what, are you kidding me?
Mhm.
We're not doing this. But you're willing to do it on events that you have total control over.
Correct.
And you're willing to do it in very specific, very specialized events.
Correct.
If the indemnification that you provide to them was provided to you, what would be the difference legally? And I mean, I deal with legal issues every day of my life, so.
Well, here's
You'd have to ask our
here's
attorney
the
that
biggest-
because I don't know that I could
But
explain
see,
it.
still, here's the biggest legal problem.
So-
For example, if even if you provide us indemnity, we are the ones actually making the deal with you, signing a
Right,
document
that's-
saying we approved
That's
your
what I
event.
thought I heard.
Something happens on Larmac property. It's not our problem. It's not our control. It's not our property. We lose our shirts. Not Larmac. Larmac
Well,
is
isn't
Well,
still
actually-
protected.
and that's why
because
it's
it's
set up.
actually
Isn't it set up for that purpose?
No.
no, and everyone
That's-
thinks that.
that's
And Larmac has
because
put that out there. It's
that's-
absolutely not true.
Because that's the feedback I got from Larmac.
That's
Is that
what-
that's the
They've
No.
been putting out that rhetoric for years. Larcs
Yeah.
was created to do events for this community. Period. It was a bonus that we handle it so Larmac doesn't have to. But other communities, if they don't have a CSO, the HOA handles events.
That's
They
right.
rent their property. They let people come in.
What I'm trying to get my arms around,
Right.
and nothing's making sense that I'm hearing, is if you're not involved in the event,
Right.
you clearly don't sign off on a conditional use permit for the event because you're
Correct.
not involved.
Correct.
That's what they're
But
asking
the
us to
mutual
do.
benefit agreement
They're
says we
asking-
are.
The mutual benefit agreement is asking that you indemnify them from any events on
That's
their
correct.
property because you're supposed to be involved in all events.
Right.
Well, not
But
that
in
we're
the-
supposed to be. That we've
That you've
approved
approved.
it.
Right.
Yeah.
So your signature is on the conditional use permit for any event that takes place.
Mm-hmm.
As
you-
it was.
Right.
Yes.
As a part of their agreement, when you sign that
Right.
conditional use permit, you're indemnifying them from all actions that could be taken, all liable that
That's
could be
correct.
taken on that event.
That's the way I understand it.
Yes, that's the way it's been explained to us.
The same indemnification clause that you provide to them,
Mhm.
she could provide to you.
Right.
In the same quantities, amounts, all coverage, everything could be provided to your entity as well. And if you really look at it, you've got a 7-year existing operation with
Okay.
virtually no liability. So the risk isn't exactly explosive.
But again, you're missing the whole point of what the attorney's saying is, why would we take any risk when we don't own the property?
That's
why
right.
are we approving something on property that we don't own? And why would we take any risk when we don't own the property?
Because there can't be an event without your signature on it. So
Why?
You,
So yeah, that's
Why?
true. See, this is just something that
you
got
just
started.
got done
That's
telling
not-
me that you guys have to approve
No,
No.
we
any and
don't
all
now.
events that take
We don't
place.
now.
That's the way. That's
You
what
don't
it snowballed
anymore.
into.
So she should take her case to Larmac and skip Larcs? Is that
That,
what
well,
we're getting
this
at?
is what we're this is what we're still trying to hammer out with Larnach.
This hasn't been. This
is
is
what I
not.
said. This has been
This
dragging
is
on for a
premature
year.
because
well,
we haven't
last
had
night
the meeting.
you had the meeting.
Yeah.
Last
Well, no,
night
no.
was-
This
but
is premature
Larnach
because
doesn't even know what came
we
out of it.
haven't gone to sit down with Larmac
Right.
now to work this out. It's going to take
But
some time to work
I
it
really
out.
wanted to let you know where it's headed because
Well,
I
you
don't
know
want
what I've dealt with
yeah,
for years.
I
I mean,
don't want you to
literally.
be sitting there going and we're putting it
Well,
because
the
we've been messing with this
event
for a
is
year.
happening. The event is happening. It's April 30th, May 1st. It's actually it's going to be in the Ladera Ranch magazine. It's already been out there. It's happening. Those
Well,
are the
it's
dates.
happening, but it may not happen on Founders Park.
And you know what? But
Right.
it's and
That'll
you know
be
what?
a Larmac decision.
Yeah.
I might be throwing a big party at my house.
Yeah.
But it's happening.
Dancing in
Right.
the streets.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely
See,
happening.
now Ryan's events are pretty much on the streets, so he'll continue his events in
Right.
the
But
streets.
But don't you
doesn't
guys
matter.
think? I mean, that to me, we have this beautiful park
Mhm.
that we all pay homeowners association fee. We all are part of.
Yep.
And I mean, literally, that is just odd to me. We have this
Yep.
beautiful park, and we can't use that park when.
Oh, that's the whole purpose. That's the whole point. The park is for residents' use, not for personal gain or commercial or whatever. So only the Larcs events are allowed
Well,
to be there,
ironically
other than the if you want to, as a homeowner, use it. And that's part of
Ironically
the
enough, that could be
complaints.
another route we
They're
go.
also getting complaints that you're right.
75% of our attendance is directly Ladera Ranch. I mean, with the way we had them all register, I mean, I was shocked. 75% of this community goes to Taste of Ladera. The thing shuts down. Everyone goes to this
Right.
event.
Right.
That's
Well,
huge.
here's
and I have
the
the numbers to show
here's
it.
the
Right.
rock and the hard place. Is that the
Yeah,
right
between
thing?
Rock and Hard Place.
Again, this isn't about the event. We have to figure out, because it's not just your event. We're
No,
getting
it's
calls
not.
from every
Yeah.
and you have no idea. I mean, and I'm not trying to rush you, but I do have a plane to catch. No, but you have no idea how much time this is taking away from what we need to do for the Larcs events.
And
Do you
for
guys
the
sign
community.
off on AYSL? I'm sorry.
No.
No,
Larmac.
Larmac.
All
See,
sports
it's
are.
only
This is
events.
what I mean. It's very
only
You don't
events.
sign off on LFL?
Nope.
No, I don't even know what LFL is. Little League.
football.
Football.
No.
The flag football.
Yep.
See, don't
You
even.
don't sign off on
Nothing.
On
They have a
No sports. No
Larmac
swimming. None of it's ours.
Larmac has a coordinator for field use, a staff person that coordinates all the field use.
shouldn't that person work in this office?
No,
Well, see, and unfortunately, I see what he's saying because based off what we've said, yes, that person should work in this office. But this is what's happened.
well, if
It's
we
so
own the
convoluted because when we were
facilities, yes.
little, it made sense. When we were small and there was nothing, it was all into town green. It was tiny. It was no big deal. It all made sense.
Yeah.
Now that it's snowballed into literally 4 calls a week from outside events, now it's all and they're handling sports and doing whatever. Now it's suddenly like, well, people don't even know where to go. I mean, if
Well, and I think, and I totally hear.
it's just too mixed up.
I look at again.
We don't own any property.
We
I
own
look at
nothing.
I look at specifically with Taste of Ladera. It
Right.
is an event in itself, in that it's a community event. I mean,
It
people
is.
have moved here. We have people who tell us they've moved here because of that event.
Right.
The businesses. I mean, it's definitely people didn't know where where's Ladera Ranch. They
Right.
know about it because of this event. Huge recognition, the whole bit. So my feeling is, I guess I'm looking at my different options, and I'm
Right.
looking at you guys. What's this next step for us? Do we sit down and go, okay, what would make it so that there's comfort on your part? Because this is not like all the other people
we
calling
would
in.
partner with you for a one-day event on the town green.
And why the one day? Why not the 2 days?
It's staffing and liability. They don't want it to be a big event.
That for me, and you guys can certainly have this conversation. I wouldn't be involved in that because we've gotten to a certain point where there's a certain public expectation of Taste of Ladera. That park just isn't big enough to support the type of event that we've been doing the last 3 years, with the big, huge international name entertainment and that kind of stuff. That's just not the right event for me to be involved in. It's fine. I mean, certainly you could
I've got
backtrack.
Yeah, I understand.
I've got
I understand.
Yeah,
hundreds
I do.
of people involved that I feel the same way he does. I told Carol this. I go, Carol, for me to go to one day,
Yep.
it's less work
In
on
all
me.
honesty,
They feel this way.
I don't. I do these events because there's
Yeah, I
multiple
understand.
charities tied to it,
Yeah,
and it's goodwill for
yeah,
the
I
community.
totally agree.
I love being a part of events that have to do with charity. I just don't do any random events. It's kind of why I stopped doing Taste of the Lakes in Mission Viejo.
Yeah,
I just stopped doing it. There wasn't really,
yeah,
there wasn't a lot of community merit to that.
yeah.
So, but I do, I don't know, probably 30, 40 events a year. The Vintage is the next one coming up. And I've been doing that for years, and now she's running that event, so we keep working together. But I just, if Larcs isn't the entity that needs to, or we're not even sure if you guys should sign off on anything because of this.
That's the
That's
problem.
why we're meeting with you today, because we don't have an answer today.
Okay.
We have
the
to
problem.
have the mutual benefit agreement, which is scheduled for 2 weeks
the
from
13th
now.
or something.
What would you guys
I'm not
do?
confident that it's going to be signed then, because I'm still not sure where we are on this. I mean, there's
We have
definitely
no idea what Larmac's thinking at this point.
Well, they don't know.
where
They
are.
don't know
They
where
have
we're
not
going
seen
with this yet.
Right.
Shouldn't
So
you guys be the right and left hand of the community?
Yeah. Yes, we should.
Well,
yes,
We appreciate that thought.
What the hell
Yes.
happened?
That's
Well-
how we feel about it.
because of what Michelle said earlier, that because there's some notion that we
That we're the
exist,
fall guy.
we exist just for liability reasons, and that's our mission statement right there. The developers, when they created Larcs, what happened? It's the same developer, as you know, that created Rancho Santa Margarita. And what happened in Rancho Santa Margarita is the developer was funding all these events. In fact, the first rodeo they had was done in Rancho, et cetera, et cetera. And then when the developer left, if you will, they left a pot of, I want to say, close to $1 million. I don't even know how much was in it, with a volunteer group called CASA. And those volunteers continued the rodeo for a few years and other things. But guess what? After a few years, that $1 million went away. It was all volunteer run. It wasn't sustainable. So these community service organizations were the brainchild of some of the developers and Scott Jackson legal team. How can we create sustainable funding so that we can have this kind of a community lifestyle? And this entity would program the facilities for recreational programs. They would do the community signature events. They would pull together groups to volunteer. Let's create an entity and find a sustainable funding source, which is the CEF fee that people pay when they move in, or, you know.
You guys have almost beat the system, though. When you think about it, you're providing a Southern California top event next to Taste of Newport, and there's very few
Yes.
events that rival this in, in terms of attendance,
Right.
high-profile media, the goodwill that it brings to the community, and everything else.
Oh, we got
No-
great.
no-
OC Foodies and the Restaurant Association said this is out of California. It's the best taste that they've ever been to.
But again,
Clearly-
that doesn't have anything to do with where
what
we're
I-
at. We're stuck.
Right.
Right.
We don't
I
we
understand.
don't
Right, no,
disagree
yeah.
with that.
Yeah, we don't
But what you
disagree
were
at
just
all.
bringing up about Rancho
Yeah.
Santa Margarita
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
situation we're in here, you guys have beat the system. You don't even have to fund it.
Well,
You don't have
actually,
to put up a dime.
but back up. There is legislation, and I forgot to send that letter. Sorry, send electronic letter. There is legislation on the federal level that could be very detrimental to any community that has a CSO. Talega is another one. If that would pass, it's really what they're doing. They're after the folks that, like the Lennar companies, where you pay a percentage fee to Lennar when you buy a Lennar home, and it goes into their charity fund, basically. I don't know what they call it. They call it something else. And then they distribute it, but it doesn't necessarily go back into your community. They're trying to stop those, what they call transfer fees. Well, technically, the CEF is labeled a transfer fee. So we've got a letter writing campaign going on right now, because if that would happen and that would pass, then
We're out of money.
mortgages would no longer,
Take the.
they wouldn't take, if you,
Our
it would,
percentage.
so it would take, we kind of tried to pencil out maybe 10 years before we'd go away, but it wouldn't be long till we would no longer exist. And then Larmac would have to decide, is it going to come out of homeowners association dues, because people have already gotten used to this lifestyle. Well, then you're going to have to come up
But I
with,
think that gives
you
his
know, $1
point
million
even more
a
valid.
year.
Yeah.
That makes his point even more
Right.
valid.
I
Literally
Yeah.
the ironic
Hello,
thing-
we're on the same page.
I mean, everybody thinks it's put on. I mean, it's
Yeah.
kind of like,
No,
and I've been totally fine with
I
that.
agree.
I'm like, you know what, no big deal. Taste of Newport, I'm super good friends with those guys. We're actually working together right now. I'm doing a project together, and they're like, yeah. So how's it fun? And I'm like, Patterson's.
Yeah, yeah.
And they're
Yeah.
like, they get $50,000 from the city.
Right.
They totally do their thing.
Yeah.
All these groups I talk to, everyone gets money, and it's hard. I go
Yeah.
into, and I was the CFO for Larcs.
Yeah,
Right.
Remember?
but we're
Yeah.
not a
So,
city.
I was the CFO
We
for
can't
Larcs.
do that kind of stuff.
$250,000 for the 4th of July
Right.
goes to pay for the
Yeah.
4th of July.
Yeah.
That's, my
Yeah.
only point here is, if I'm you guys and I'm sitting on that side of the desk, I would not only, for one, I would have my attorneys drafting up this indemnification clause that did appear to be airtight, crystal clear,
Right.
airtight
Right. Well, it
indemnification.
does. Right.
And I would be promoting the private sector to throw events that are within the guidelines of LARMAC and Larcs.
But why would you accept the risk when you don't own the property?
Why would I not if the risk is quantifiable and it's infinitesimal?
But you don't own the
I mean,
property.
It doesn't matter if I own
Why
the property.
wouldn't the entity
You're
that owns the
obligated
property?
to approve it.
Why wouldn't?
But
why
actually,
would-
we're not. We're only obligated because of something that was said 8 years ago. I mean, it's not like
Right.
it's in
It's
our
not in
documents.
writing.
Right.
Prior to
it's
Wednesday,
Not, yeah.
Prior to
it's not-
Wednesday's meeting, you guys were the authorizing
Yes.
agent for all these events.
we
whether
were
they be-
requested to be.
Yes.
It's never been in writing.
But you
That's
have
for
it.
the.
Yes,
yeah.
we have been.
You have it.
That's true.
So I'm just saying, if I'm sitting in your seat right now, I'm calling my attorney saying, look, we shouldn't be discouraging this. We should be encouraging it. We shouldn't
Well-
spend $300,000 on 4th of July
We don't.
for a half-hour
We
program.
don't spend $300,000.
250.
No.
250.
Not even
No.
250. Last year's
What?
event was about
About
$130,000.
Okay, just so you know, it's reported
But it is.
in the local media that you guys spent $300,000 on that.
Well, I don't know where they got their numbers because they didn't come to us.
Either way, I wouldn't want to spend $30,000 if I didn't have to. Is what I'm
Right.
getting.
Right.
at.
Right.
If-
You can get
especially
somebody else
if
to
you've
fund
got
it.
legislation
Right.
that's going to be diminishing the entire organization.
Yeah, you're
if not
right.
It's true.
eliminating it.
Yeah.
I would be
Good point.
pushing people like this young lady to do events that have provided very little liability, if any, and she's able to truly indemnify this entity, which in turn has to indemnify LARMAC under this ridiculous agreement that you guys have come up with.
Right.
None of it makes any sense to me. I'm just saying,
Oh,
I'm
trust
not
me.
understanding any of the wash our hands of it because
We're with
this
you.
is such a positive thing for the community.
Well, again,
And everybody
we're not
thinks you do it
washing-
anyways.
let me just back up. We're not washing our hands of Taste of Ladera.
Mhm.
We're washing our hands of liability on property, approving events on property that we do not own.
Okay, so
Is
virtually,
that not correct?
Yeah.
but based on what you just said, you're washing your hands of all events because you don't own anything anyways. So you're
Every-
washing your hands of all events.
Except the events that we already have approved
Right.
through LARMAC, that are Larcs events, that are paid for, supervised, coordinated.
Right, but once again, we've just eliminated the private sector from Ladera Ranch, according to what you said.
Yeah.
Not our call.
Okay, I mean,
I-
fair
no,
enough.
I know,
just-
I know,
If
yeah.
if that's, now, I'm obviously the private sector, and my
Right.
funding
Yeah.
that goes to this sort of event and other stuff, I'm getting endless calls to do the Oktoberfest in a week and a half here.
Right.
From the infusion gal.
Mhm.
I'm just curious if the mindset is we're going to be looking at decreased funding,
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah, possibly.
and there is no indemnification clause that makes our attorney happy, yet he doesn't want us to sign the one with them either. Where's this all going? I mean, virtually, you're going to have to throw endless community events with no money? Is that the idea? Until you virtually evaporate?
I don't understand.
You're
What you're
saying
saying.
that the funding
if the
via the
funding goes
mortgages,
away.
the percentages
yeah.
that go to you,
Yeah.
If
is
that
going
goes
away.
Yeah.
If it goes away, you go away.
Yes.
Eventually, yes.
Wouldn't it make sense to create some sort of relationship, some bridge with LARMAC that allows you to invite the private sector,
Well-
provided the guidelines are
That
met?
has a proven
I-
record.
I agree with that, but
Yeah.
that's not the issue. The issue is
Not
we
with
are
you guys.
we
you
are
guys
working-
are fine. You want to do
we
this
are
with-
working with LARMAC now. We are trying to get them to understand that we want to play a role and that we will partner with groups on a smaller scale that don't take a lot of staff time and that we limit to the town green, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That's what we've been advised by insurance and our legal team. Yeah, you can take a step this way and still reduce your risk and not close it all down. So we're not closing it all down, but just like they do all the sports and the swimming pools, you take Founders Park, anybody that requests anything on town green will continue to do that. It's a smaller scale, less liability. There won't be any alcohol allowed except beer and wine. Those kind of things. Those are the advices that we're getting from attorney and the insurance people. So we as a board, and I speak for the board, we as a board have looked at all that painlessly. And I am
Yeah.
telling you, painlessly. We have had
Over and over and over.
3 and 4 hour meetings trying to figure this out. How do we keep something going
Mm-hmm.
but limit our liability? And this is the only thing we've been able to come up with. Now, is this the final thing? Probably not.
And if you were in our situation, I mean, this will be like a big bombshell that
Yeah.
drops on this community.
Well,
You know
yeah.
it.
Tell us
I mean,
about it.
what would you do? Would you then approach? I mean, what would you do, knowing having spent hours upon hours discussing this. I mean, where would you go if you
Well,
were
here's
us?
part of the problem is we don't know how to direct you because we don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
yet.
We don't know where Larmac is going to stand on any of this because, like we said, we just did this Wednesday night. They haven't seen it yet. They don't even know what we've done to change this application based on what's going on and our final.
Well, they
what's
know
supposed to be
they
our
know
final.
we're relooking it
Right,
because
they
of
know
what
we're
our
re-addressing
attorney
it.
said at the
I,
last
I
meeting.
know from
Yeah, we had
I
our
know from
attorneys at
talking
the
with
last
Jeff.
MBA.
Jeff's kind of like, it's not our deal, and that to me, I don't agree with that. I just
No,
think
and
it's like, come on, guys.
I totally. Well, here's just
They
another
want
issue
us
we've
to
had.
be the fall guy.
Yeah, we have this whole application, and at the back, it actually has stated forever that Larmac approves the use of facilities. It's a signature, it's a date. When it goes to their board, they're supposed to sign. I don't think we've ever gotten one back
Not
signed,
one.
and it's become a real issue for us. They're not signing anything. So if push came to shove, we're looking back over all these contracts, we're realizing, oh, they sent them back with a note on them that from, whoever the staff member is saying they approved it in a board meeting, but no one's ever signed the actual contract. So we're putting ourselves out there, we're doing this, and Larmac isn't even actually technically, legally saying they've approved the event. So this has just become a real sticking point between the two boards right now. And unfortunately, I'm not kidding, we've been battling this for a year, and again, we've got this next MBA meeting in 2 weeks, and the last time we left a meeting, both our attorneys were in the room.
And that's with both Larcs and Larmac.
Yep.
Interesting. Where is that at? Is that open to the public?
No.
No.
Is
because
there-
it's just
I
a
mean,
negotiation meeting.
And there's not the full boards.
I mean,
Oh, yeah,
you know
it's
what
just the
really
two.
is frustrating? I mean, Kara, you and I have talked about this so much.
Yep.
It is so much work putting on these events.
Yeah.
And then to have the biggest challenge that I have is not with putting on the event. Is not with
I don't
having
mean
it
to be rude,
successful.
but I really do have to catch a flight, and I don't want to rush you
No,
off.
keep
Is
doing
it
what
okay?
you're doing.
I'm
Absolutely,
sorry.
please.
Okay.
But the biggest challenge is dealing with this
I know.
total crap.
Mm-hmm.
This is what it kills me. Brings me, drops through my knees in tears.
Tell us about
It literally, I want to look at it and go, you know what? Go pound sand. You guys are looking at a gift horse in the mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody who,
Well,
ironically.
how do you think it makes us feel when we have to be the one to sit here and
Because again,
say,
you guys have to understand, it's not just you. We're going to have the same conversation,
Yeah.
depending on what comes out of it with Oktoberfest,
Yeah.
with even the menorah
and we're the ones
lighting,
that have to say,
everybody.
sorry,
We're gonna have to
Larmac
have the
won't
same-
approve it, so we have to say no too.
Unfortunately, and
It's
you are
awful.
right, because the unfortunate part of it is, you guys are the only ones on the town green. On
I
Founders Park,
have,
realistically.
there are people that live around Town Green
Which is
that have
unbelievable.
moved there because, I have this in quotes. I go, really? They moved there because of Taste of Ladera.
Right. Oh, I don't
Isn't that,
doubt, yeah.
And this event, it's definitely happening.
Yeah.
We'll plug it in somewhere.
Right.
And then the conversation's going to go something like, well, why is it not on town? Why
Yeah.
is it on the grass? The beautiful grass that we all.
Yeah, this huge
Oh,
park,
by the
right.
way, they don't, it's not put on by Larcs, Larmac.
Right.
They're going to go, really? And then secondly, they're going to go, okay, so they're not letting you use it? I mean, that's going to be the response.
I know.
I don't even know what to say.
Well,
about it.
it's funny though. There is another contingency, which is very interesting to me that I've heard about. There is another contingency of people who, and Mr. What's his name was kind of part of that. is,
Price.
Well, I bought in Ladera to use these parks, with my family and friends. And I don't like these big outside groups coming in with these big events. And I mean, I don't know how big that contingency is, but there is a contingency out there saying that too. So
It's pretty, I will say that.
some people say that the parks are overbooked.
Overused.
That's
Well,
one
I
of the
think-
things that Larmac is hearing about Founders Park. It's overused. Larcs use it for all their events and some of the other events, and they're asking to open it up more.
I don't think anybody
All the
uses
sports-
it more than
The sports
AYSO.
teams, I
Right,
would
no,
agree.
sports teams are 90% of it. Sports teams
Yeah,
are
the
90%
feedback I
of
get,
usage.
the 2 days, and this is, again, feedback from Mr. Price, but the 2 days a year, and, and keeping it impeccable. I mean, we literally will go in and make sure the streets are clean. I mean, it's been really
No,
positive.
Right.
no,
No, I
That's
know.
why I've been super,
Well, and Stephanie and Carol both volunteered at the event. They loved it.
We worked at,
do
the
you
infusion
love
booth.
it.
Yeah.
I think they
Had a
were
great
the
time.
biggest
on
partiers.
Sunday, yeah, on Sunday we were the biggest partiers there.
I heard somebody's husband came and picked him up, but I'm not going to say any names here.
Can't
I'm not
figure
gonna
out
say
who that
any
was. But yeah, this has just been, this has been not pleasant for the last year. We've been working on this freaking application to get it right for the last year. Actually more. The last MBA was signed in 2008. We are, over a year into this from where we should have visited it. Almost coming up on probably 2 years, because it'll be February 2011. We will be working on basically renegotiating the MBA for 2 years.
It's just unfortunate, too, because it will become a very public issue. And
That's what I don't want to see.
I know.
And you guys, how many years, Carol, has it been where I've been dealing with this crap?
I know.
And I've kept it hush.
Yeah.
And the reason why is I hate negative anything.
Right.
I don't want anything to attach negative to my beautiful, gorgeous
Yeah.
Taste of Ladera event. I don't.
Yeah.
I just, to me, it's like, let's air out the
Right.
dirty
Yeah.
laundry in the back
Let's
and
just
not
get it
have
done.
that. But,
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be, I don't even have to say anything. It's like, well, we're not there. You know?
Right.
Well, and that's part, when Carol said she ran into you the other night, I said, we can't just let her stay hanging.
Thank
No.
you.
You know,
I
we
appreciate
I
got to
told
tell her
Susan, I
that
said,
we
we
don't
gotta
really
call
know
her
what's
in.
going
Yeah.
on.
I mean, the unfortunate
but-
answer is we're still in the middle of it. I mean, that's the problem. We don't know what exactly is going to happen.
And it's
So
like,
from here on out, you guys aren't going to be signing conditional use permits for private entities. Is
At
that what it sounds like?
anything bigger than Town Green is what we're
Correct.
going for right now. If they
Correct.
keep pushing
Your
it, maybe
attorney
for
has
nothing.
convinced you that your liability is significantly less at Town Green than it is at Founders
Yeah,
Park.
because we've actually drawn the line now at 4,999 attendees,
Yeah.
and that makes a significant difference in our.
And it's not just the
Insurance and
attorney; it's
liability.
it's really the
5,000 people at Town Green.
no
is a safe
no
number?
no.
Oh.
He said to keep it under 5,000, which is why we picked the Town Green. No, I don't think we can have more than 3,000.
In fact, I asked the question the other day. One of my questions was, does the fire department
because they
have
say
a capacity
we
for
get
outdoor
a little over
facilities?
2 at the concerts,
And nobody
it's
nobody
pretty
really knew.
packed.
So
If
that's
you
actually a
have a
question
fence.
we're now going to follow up with.
Yeah.
If you
well,
have a-
Brian Haney,
Yeah.
we work now with our fire marshal,
Right.
who also,
He's great.
he got promoted over to Irvine, but he specifically, I've been dealing with him for 7 years. He comes back just to do Taste of Ladera.
He comes back to do fourth.
He's
too,
like, you
doesn't he?
ladies are, you
Brian?
know, he couldn't be happier with us. So
He's great.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's
Yeah.
like the way it's ran
Yeah,
and
he's
everything.
real. I mean, he's good because he also did. Was Brian the one that came and did the fire pit
Yep,
thing too? Yeah.
yep.
Brian works with us too, and I mean,
the
I
family
just.
camp
But
out.
I told Susan, I said, I can't believe we've never actually asked. You know, the fire marshal, is there a capacity for like the Town Green? Do we need to have a capacity that would change those numbers again? Because I said, you know, I told Susan, I said, I want this done. I said, I don't want to do it again. I said, we've been pounding on this same application for a year, and I said, this is just, we've got to figure out a way to make it work. One way or the other. I mean, whatever the outcome is, we got to nail this down so we can go forward in a clear manner. Here's what we can do. Here's what we can't do. Here's what we're, what we can approve, what we can't approve. And I'm hoping, like I said, I mean, unfortunately, Larmac hasn't even seen it yet, so we don't know where they're going to come out on all this at this point.
Do they think you're moving down this path of like, hey, we're not going to...
I think they have an idea based on the last meeting. I mean,
Yeah.
if they don't, I mean, the attorneys were pretty clear. So
Yeah, because in
They
the
said
last
we've
meeting,
gotta
both our
regroup.
attorneys were in the room.
you know, I mean,
and their response again, at least the feeling I'm getting is kind of it's
Yeah.
not our deal.
It's theirs.
That's just great.
Yeah.
the
Not
thing
their deal,
that's
not
Not my
their
deal, not my
the
deal.
thing that's
Yeah.
frustrating to me is that
It's their
the
property.
property owner is saying,
It's not
"We're
our
not the
deal."
bad
Yeah.
guy. It's them that stopped you."
It's not our property to lease out.
I'm not getting that.
realistically.
I'm not getting that.
And to me, it seems like they can literally make a decision. It's kind of like looking at us going, do we want to take you on or not?
Correct.
And and they made the choice. They made a special arrangement for the Ladera Ranch Middle School to do the carnival. And there's a
Right.
shared agreement. So I think
Right.
the bottom
Shared
line
use agreement.
is clearly we've proven ourselves after 7 years.
Right.
Clearly it's will they come in and make an exception? That's what it boils down to.
Well,
Right.
ultimately, you guys have the right to lease or conditional use permit on special events, their properties.
Yeah, isn't that right, Susan?
I'm sorry, what?
Ultimately, we have the right to basically use their properties.
Well, that's what the whole NBA is, and the facility use agreement. The
Right.
facility use agreement that is part of the thing that you signed is actually their document.
So ultimately, though,
Remember?
that document
With-
has
that
to
they
get
don't
approved
sign.
in some form.
Yes.
I'm sorry, what?
It has to get approved or you become obsolete.
Correct.
That's true.
yes.
So you either come to some sort of agreement with
Right.
them and continue to be the governing body over the special events on their property. Whether they own it or you own it really becomes immaterial. The bottom line is they're designating you guys as the governing body for the special events, the issuing CUP party. So you have to come to some sort of agreement,
Yes.
otherwise you could lock the doors up and go home.
Right. Yes, we do need to come to some sort of agreement.
So
Which is
once
why
that
we're having
agreement-
that meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, so the question or the dilemma here is your attorney is saying, we'll take on the indemnification clause, but we want to just keep it minimal,
Yes.
provided you're involved. And if you're not involved, then what?
Well,
If we're not involved, we won't sign it.
we can't sign anything if
Yeah.
we're not
Okay, so
involved at all.
from here on out, it's a Larcs event or no event, correct?
No, we can the way we're trying to
This is
go,
what we
and
just
we haven't
changed.
discussed with them yet. We will enter into co-sponsored events. So, and the perfect example of that would be the chamber has that annual breakfast every year.
Right.
That's a low-key event. It takes very little staff time. That would be something we'd sit down with the chamber and consider partnering with. But we would have to be involved in the whole planning of it because we would be taking on the liability. And we would be a
Not if you were
co-sponsor of it.
properly indemnified. I can't
Well,
stress that enough.
That's not what we're hearing from
Yeah, I have to
attorney
say
and
that's not what
or
we've been told.
insurance. So we're getting
From two
advice
separate-
from
yeah.
two separate people.
That we need to change what we're doing.
Yeah.
Basically, is what we've been
It's
told.
too
over
well.
and
What
over
we're
and over.
what we've been told is
There's no difference
you're
between
accepting
your
way
indemnification and someone
And
else's.
someone
There
else's.
just isn't.
well when the way it's written. It's basically Larcs and any entity using Larmac facilities. That's what opens the can of worms.
See, our
according to-
real real issue is it is the indemnity clause, but what it is it's the one in the MBA, because I think probably, and I don't want to say this wrong, so I'm going to say I think this is the way I understood it. Even though, for example, you guys write an indemnity saying that we are going to indemnify Larcs and Larmac against anything on this. What happens, the way I understood our attorney, is because we've signed a mutual benefit agreement that with Larmac that says we're indemnifying Larmac, we take the hit. Because you guys
that's how it was
indemnified both of
explained.
us,
That's how it was
but
explained.
the buck stops with us because we've now indemnified them. So technically, it all falls on us, which is where we have an issue.
You got to finish that thought. You had it right until the very end there. If she's indemnifying you, and there's a, God forbid, a tragedy at that event,
Right.
okay, ultimately, she's the suable entity. They could sue you all day.
Right.
But bottom line, her insurance company is taking the liability
Correct.
for your entity and their entity.
Right.
That you're not left holding the bag.
Right.
You are.
We aren't left holding the bag, but we would be named and sued as well. You're
well,
right.
You'd be named and sued anyway.
So would
whether it was your
Larmac.
event
And
or
so would
anybody's
Larmac.
event.
And so would Larmac.
But see, now here's the deal, because let's say it's not you guys. Let's say it's somebody else that, we don't know all that well. They come in, they have an event, and they cause, for example, they back trucks onto Founders Park
Sure.
and break 50 sprinkler heads, and it's, $13,000 to fix this.
Right.
If this group disappears, this person disappears, refuses to pay, we have to pay.
Right, but your attorney certainly could lock up multiple documents, whether it was even personal guarantees, to secure the liability, the amount of the liability, with whoever's,
Right.
party B that is coming here to apply for some sort of conditional use permit for whatever it is. Attorneys are sharp guys, as you
Right.
guys all know. They'd be able to protect you as an entity, draft a document that ultimately, if Larmac was to come back and say, look, you destroyed all the heads, you need to go back to those people, and now you can't find them, that really wouldn't be a scenario. I mean, there would be enough documentation and enough legal backup that you'd
Right.
have enough teeth in the document that your attorney would create that an outside entity would have to sign.
Well, as you
Well,
can
see,
see,
and-
this isn't an easy situation, and that's why I don't think it's going to be solved in 2 weeks, because I don't think we're going to be able to come to agreement. I think they're still going to want to do this, and so we're going to have to go back and have a meeting with our attorney and our insurance broker and see
Right.
what we can do. I mean, because we
And
don't
I
know.
think too, it's
We
taking
just don't
looking
know.
at the projects on, and so that to me is a big issue.
Right.
Then you take the side of, proven record, 0 issues. You have a situation there where, again, you're looking at the individual ones. It's not,
Right.
Joe Blow who's coming in from
Right.
nowhere.
Out
It's
of
like,
nowhere.
okay, here's a resident.
Right.
Here's somebody who's been doing it for 7 years, who's been working with you guys.
Right.
It's a different
You don't
different
need a
person.
blanket policy that approves all events
No.
that are applied for.
No.
You certainly can pick and choose the events you want
Yes,
for
we
this
can.
community.
That
You
is
don't
true.
want a biker rally on Founders Park. You don't
True.
need to
Right.
have that.
Right.
But a community event that has some sort of community merit and a track record that's proven
Right.
that you can view as a much less of a liability, legally,
Well, that is where we're headed. The problem is, based on the insurance advice and the lawyer's advice, the board has now chosen to limit that to Town Green. So any requests that come to for
The Founders
Founders
is gonna be
Park
passed on.
will need to either go to Larmac or we'll just
And
they'll
the
have to come,
ironic
they'll
thing
have to
is-
come up with a policy and say we don't allow outside groups. I don't know
the,
what they'll
the
do.
ironic thing
Yeah.
is the only one that applies to
Is you.
is me.
No,
Yeah.
the Snowfest. Ron
Oh,
does
yeah,
the
Ron's
Snowfest.
snow,
We've
too.
already told Ron.
Yeah, it's
But
true.
Ron could have his snowfest at Town Green.
No, he can't.
How
'Cause-
come?
Well, he says he has to have.
The hill or something in
Yeah,
the parking lot. I don't know.
'cause
Okay.
he couldn't.
Something with the parking lot angle because it makes a natural slope
Okay.
or something. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, he's
You know,
saying it's going to make him not have his event too. And Yeah, I mean it is because just
And
because
Ryan
they're
will
back.
change his event up so that he won't use
Doesn't
any
use any
Larmac
Larmac
for his
property.
bike race. He's just going to use the streets, he said. So,
Do it all in the streets.
so those are the 3 events that aren't really on the town green. So it's not just your event, and that's
And really, the bigger issue is not this applicant. The biggest issue of what we're trying to hammer out is the issue between Larcs and Larmac in the NBA. This is the really bigger issue.
You have to hammer it out,
Right.
or you're out of business.
We do have to hammer it out.
absolutely.
Because otherwise we will not have somewhere to put these on. Because, I mean, part of the problem too is, we're not looking, part of our problem is, we lost staff this year that Larmac pulled. They used to pay for part-time staff out here. So we're down some staff members. We're trying not to increase our budget. We're trying to keep it the same. And with Larmac saying, you guys have to have somebody at every event. Somebody's got to watch our property. You guys have to make sure that they've got sound. Because even though you're hiring the sound monitors, the deal that Larmac's telling us is we have to make sure that your sound monitors are there. So we still need a staff member there. So what's happening to us is
But
all
you
of a
guys,
sudden...
but I'm also paying a fee too.
Right, no, exactly.
I'm paying a
But
pretty
Exactly.
they're paying the fee for him, not us.
Well,
and,
and,
and you guys,
and
does.
us, and
you
well,
guys.
and
There's a
here's our
fee,
problem.
That's
it's
true.
$3,500 a day.
Susan. I said,
Yeah.
well, what about, why
That's
can't we
true.
just get a
Yeah.
staff member? Well, the problem is, our staff, what they've committed to in their contracts, are the events we have. So we'd have to, and I told Susan, I go, well, let's just pay somebody overtime. And the bigger problem is, we got to find somebody, or we may be hiring a separate person that will come out for the extra events. Because they're already here certain number of weekends, out of their personal time for our events and whatever's going on. So it's
You
this
spend every weekend
snowball
working.
thing. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh,
it's
yeah.
just this whole snowball
That's why
thing.
that's why
Trying to get
I
it-
appreciate you guys saying that this has nothing to do with Taste of Ladera. We love the
No.
event, and obviously I know you
Yeah.
do because you're
We go every year.
You haven't missed
Go
it.
every year. Yeah.
I wouldn't be
Never
here
missed
this
it.
morning if we didn't feel
Yeah.
that way.
Well, and
Honestly, God,
that
wouldn't.
means a lot.
Because
really.
it's not fair to you to
Right. No,
sit
that-
here
that
and
was-
wonder what the heck is going on when we don't even know.
Right,
Yeah.
and that's what I told Susan. I said, I
mean,
ran into
everything
you, I said,
you're
we cannot
saying
keep
is-
this up. I
I
said, we've got to bring her in,
appreciate
even
that
if
a
you don't
lot.
have an answer. We've got to have some conversation
Yeah.
because the bottom line is, unfortunately, I don't have an answer. I
Yeah.
wish I did. I wish we were telling you. Have no idea how much I wish we were done.
We wanted to at least
No
share
idea.
with you the direction
Yeah.
we're going now.
Yeah.
Now, I can tell you in 2 weeks, if we sit down and there's still an impasse or whatever you call it, we have to go back to the drawing board. It could change again. I don't know. I really don't know because
I don't either.
we haven't talked to the attorneys since we had our meeting. We haven't talked to Larmac
Or
since we
Larmac.
had the meeting.
No.
We don't know if this is going to be accepted, not accepted. We don't know.
And we had, just so you guys know, there was actually a different version that came in our board packets. This is the version that came out on Wednesday night's meeting.
Yeah.
There was a different version in our board packets for Wednesday night.
And your board, Carol, all of them feel pretty strongly like this is they're disgusted with this. This is.
Yeah, it's not very pleasant.
Well,
It's,
everybody's frustrated on
Yeah, we're
both
frustrated.
sides. I think.
Yeah.
I think the real issue is this, and it's interesting that you had the same perspective, and I just don't understand how that word got out there. But I think the frustration that I'm viewing as an outsider is the Larmac board is frustrated because they want to do this. We don't want to do events. We just want to do what we do for an HOA. And Larcs is saying, based on information that they've gotten from their legal people, is this too big a risk. We can't take this risk. We don't own the property, so you need to take some of that back. Now, can we get to a happy medium? I don't know.
that's what
I
we're
mean,
trying.
that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
We'll still do the approval process for anything in the smaller parks, including Town Green. 1-day events, we'll staff them. We'll figure out how to do that. We'll take that responsibility. But you got to take on the bigger responsibility of Cox Park and Founders Park.
Real quick too is tell me about Cox Park though, because is that an option?
The way it's my
Only
understanding,
through Larmac.
but it's
'Cause
my
you guys don't
understanding that
oversee
it's
Larmac.
my understanding that there's some county connection still.
Yes.
or
There is
not.
a
'Cause
county
I can go to
connection
the
because
county.
Betsy King
Yes.
administers it.
That
I don't
was-
even understand all this because we have nothing to do with it. But
Well,
yeah,
and part of me being on the civic council too, and I did all Pat Bates events, so
Yeah.
I'm always asking, but there's a different deal going on with
Yep.
that location.
yeah, there's a different because we are actually leasing that back for 99 years or whatever.
Right.
So technically,
It's
how
not
much
owned
yeah,
by-
we don't own it. Larmac
Yeah.
doesn't own it. The county owns it. So there's that kind of middleman thing there with Larmac leasing it,
Because
but we don't own
I
it.
said
and-
I said something about having an event there, and
said something about having
they
an event there.
said
They
that
told
the
us
county.
no.
Well, they said the county wouldn't prove it because there's no parking there.
that
And
is
there's
what
no
it was.
parking. And
But
There's no parking
There's no
anywhere.
parking around.
Exactly.
Hello, I
Anyway.
shuttle everybody.
Yeah.
The whole thing is
So-
So
shuttle.
if you
I'm
shut
trying
us,
to
so who
remember-
cares?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and people would still walk there.
Yeah,
That's
and I'm
enough.
trying to remember what event it was because we just had this conversation last year about wanting to do something over there, and we were pretty much told no because it's a parking issue.
Well,
That
it was
the
when we
end
were
of
going
it.
to do
What was it?
something different for the 4th of July. we
were
talked
gonna-
about moving it over
originally,
there.
a year and a half ago. We were going to split 4th of July. We were going to do,
2 different
because there's
days.
so little space by the time they mark off the fireworks at Town Green, we were going to pull and do a big old-fashioned type carnival whole thing over at the sports park, and we were told no.
Because they can't really, I mean, you can't really come back and say, oh, well, she trashes the, Taste of Ladera trashes the grass. Because
Right.
it literally was pristine.
I haven't heard anything this year about trash and
I was
grass.
so,
None of that.
and then
None
the
of
year
that.
before, it was like, no, we had,
Yep.
everybody, we didn't break a sprinkler. Zip,
Yeah,
not in
yeah,
there.
everything.
I mean, isn't that
Yep.
awesome? Yeah,
Yeah.
so it can't be that.
Nope.
So, all right, well,
We're working on it.
I appreciate you guys.
Well, I feel bad that
having
we
to do
don't
it
really
in
have an
person.
answer
Yeah.
because I know you're trying to plan an
Yep.
event,
Well,
and
you I can't put the thing on hold from planning.
Well, let me
otherwise
ask you
the
this.
event won't happen.
I mean, what would be? I don't know. What would be, because we are kind of at a stalled point right now? I mean, what would be wrong with you exploring backup options like the Cox?
I mean, I think based on our conversation, I'm going to have to.
Yeah, I would.
I do feel like it being a resident here and knowing the feedback. I mean, it's hard to look at that field and it's beautiful and it's gorgeous and it's design. I mean, we figured out how to master the parking, everything.
Right.
It's
Well,
I
and
think
it's
odd that we
it's
don't use that
well,
field.
and it's
But-
frustrating for you because you figured it out. And now you got to go to a new facility and figure it out there too.
and
I
sound
understand
and everything
that.
and working
Right.
with them, then do it.
Change everything, right.
So, but
No,
yeah,
I get it.
but based on your comments, I mean, we'll still continue going through, and it's like, I mean, the good news is Ladera Ranch isn't so big; it's going somewhere.
Right, right.
Even looking down at Ortega Highway, my concern
Oh, yeah.
is, I don't want people driving and
Right,
drinking, even if we were doing
Yeah,
shuttles.
I totally agree
Yep,
with
I
that.
agree with that.
Because I've looked down there and I
I
thought,
totally agree with that. Yeah.
but that's that issue right there. So,
Right. And I get that.
well, if you guys come up with anything,
Well, we have a meeting scheduled on the 13th. I mean, if we know anything right away,
Yeah,
we'll
we'll let
call
you
you
know.
as soon
Okay.
as we know. We'll
If you
we'll
don't
let
hear
you,
something, it means we're
or we'll also let you know we're still not there, so
Yeah.
we're going back to the drawing board to figure out what we can do.
Okay.
Now,
because that's the hard thing is I have to pull all my permitting, all my stuff,
know.
and all those require the address to be on there.
right. Yeah, we know.
So.
well, based on what Jeff's telling you, I don't know that I would count on Founders Park. If he's telling you if they don't approve it,
Yeah, and
I don't know.
he and I haven't gotten into depth about it.
Right.
I think, so
yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know either. We haven't discussed it outside of
No,
legal meetings, so.
no.
Yeah, I don't know where they stand with it.
I
haven't
mean,
talked to
I mean,
anybody
the
about
But
Jimmy.
and my calmness is truly, I think, because I'm tired of not playing last night too. But
Right.
let me emphasize, this is total bullshit. And again, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you, Susan, staying
Yeah.
the morning, and you,
Right.
This is so hard.
But I
because
totally,
I mean,
I think I'm just
there's
tired.
just not a simple answer to this. I mean, it seems like, and I can hear from your perspective, you think it
There
should
is
be.
a simple
Well,
answer.
you think there is, but in the middle of it, there's not.
Yeah.
Believe me, we have torn this thing apart 15 times.
Well, it'd be different if we were talking about a first-year event and a promise to.
But
be
you
good
have to
boys and
understand.
all
You have to
that.
understand. We're not when we're doing this. The conversations we're having has nothing to do with your event.
And maybe that
With
should be
that
part of
board.
the conversation is, okay,
Right, I
let's
think
let's
that's what
look
he's
at
saying.
each one of
Yeah.
them, individually. Obviously, people
You
are
have to
calling
calculate
in.
your risk in any business
And everyone,
decision.
right.
True.
That's
This
true.
is a pretty minimal calculated risk considering you're not even involved, and there's been no headaches or no lawsuits. There's
Right.
been
There's
nothing.
been nothing.
So I'm not sure what all the trepidation is about, or why it isn't a part of the conversation. Because I think if nothing else, this could help kind of
Well,
bridge the
I
gap.
will
where
tell you
you're
what
at.
some of the intrepidation is. Has nothing to do with Taste of Ladera. It has to do with just alcohol in the park. And there were a lot of negative comments about people peeing on the way home, that were drunk. I mean, when
Talking
you
about
have
3 years ago or the last?
no, we're
year?
talking about last year. We got emails and phone calls the next day at both offices that somebody peed in my yard on their way home. Now, somebody did that after the 4th of July too. So it's not.
Yeah, and
It's alcohol in the park.
right.
It's
but you
not
understand,
just
4th
your
of
event.
July, we were there. We were drunk when we got there.
Yeah.
We were drinking all day.
Yeah.
I just, to me, you're always going to get the, forgive me for saying it, but the old man complaining.
Right.
Well,
you're
but you
always
have
gonna
to. You
that
also have to
scenario.
look at this
Right.
community's demographics. We do as a board, not you. because of the way our mission statement is set, we're supposed to have wholesome, quote, family events. Okay? A lot of feedback that we got on those phone calls were, I'm not taking my kids to an event where people are drunk and obnoxious.
That's why it's so critical to have the 2 days.
Used to be a Taste of Ladera, but now it's turned into, and I'm just being honest with you, this is what some of the phone calls, because we documented them, it's now turned into a drunken brawl with some music. That's some. Now, there's other comments that are very positive to counter it, so I'm not judging
Would
at
that be
all.
from the 15,000 that showed up?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm just telling you some of the phone calls that come in. So, as a board, what we look at is, okay, with our mission, what is it that we should be promoting? We should be promoting events that limit alcohol intake. Now, that's not to say we're not going to have any alcohol, but we're going to limit to beer and wine. We want to limit the numbers to keep it less of a risk to get out of control, that kind of. Those are the things they looked at. It had nothing to do with your event. We're talking about our own 4th of July event, too, making changes to that. We're talking about.
But there's only so much you can do. You can prevent me and our 30 neighbors
No, you're
from
right.
showing up.
Right.
You're
drunk
right.
That's
at
true.
night.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
That's true.
You're absolutely
And
right.
if I urinated in a bush, is that your fault as an agency?
Yeah, but you know what? Unfortunately, some of the homeowners think it is.
Sure, but it's probably the
Yeah.
same
Isn't that true?
homeowners
Yeah.
that are pissed off that we allow AYSO to
play.
completely
Yeah,
dominate
I
that
have to
field
go.
all
I'm
day.
so sorry.
I have to go. I am really sorry.
No apologies. Well,
Okay.
if you
We-
guys come up with any,
We don't have an answer, but at least you know what we're struggling with, and at least you know the direction that we want to work with other groups. Now, unfortunately, that direction for your particular event is not going to work because it's not on Founders Park and it's not 2 days. The direction that the board is going right now. But it could change after the meeting. Don't know. Don't know. If we could get some kind of agreement with Larmac to do something different with the indemnity clause, we could go right back to what we were doing.
But
I
short
don't
of
know.
that, her agreement needs to be with Larmac and you guys stay out of it. Yes?
If
Well,
you wanted
according to them, no.
Yeah, according to, well, yeah, see, this is the thing. According to us, yes, it's their property. It's their facility to lease as they see fit, as long as we don't have to administer it and oversee it and provide staff for 2 days. However, according to what Larmac is saying, they have nothing to do with events. They will have nothing to do with events.
Okay.
So,
So there's not much of a waiting period because you guys are just trying to work out your agreement to have your events at Town Green, a one-day event only. You're not involved in Founders, you're not
Right.
involved in Cox.
right.
So we've already got the answer. So you just have
Kind
to work
of,
out the
yeah.
details. Bottom line is, you're not going to be involved in Taste of Ladera under
Well,
any circumstance, provided it's there.
as of the last board meeting,
Right.
You're correct.
Yes.
Okay.
But we have this meeting coming up with the mutual benefit. It could change because we'll have to go back to the board again after that meeting. So that's
But that would also entail you guys changing your position of wanting to take on greater liability with
Correct.
2-day events.
yeah. We're not going to change that position. You're right.
So really it's-
there's
that
nothing
is
to
the
talk
decision.
about. Is what
Right.
I'm getting at.
Yeah,
Is-
because if you guys don't think a one-day event at Town Green would work for you, yes, you have a point. Yes,
Exactly.
that is
And,
I see
perfect.
what
and
you're
there's
saying.
no way.
I see what you're
Yes.
saying. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I do
It
too.
would be-
Yeah,
yeah.
I
No
understand.
matter
would be
what the
total
result
mayhem.
is, you're not going to sponsor this event because she's not going to change the terms
Correct.
of her event.
Right.
Correct.
Therefore, no matter what you work out with Larmac, if we go to Larmac, they're going to say Larcs handles our special
Yep.
events. We
Yep.
have nothing to do with it.
Right.
You guys are saying we don't allow 2-day events anywhere
Right.
but a one-day event on Town Green.
Which we
that doesn't
can't
work
fit
for
there.
us.
Right.
So you've already got your answer.
Right. All right.
Doesn't matter what comes out of this all this mess you have.
Well,
going
I mean,
on.
the only reason we keep saying that is because, in our opinion, I mean, let's just put it out there. In our opinion, Larmac needs to change their position. That's our opinion.
But even if they change it, you guys have your position, and like you said, you worry about the phone calls coming in.
And I
about
well, and I
public